So welcome. I'm so glad that you are all here. We got to keep an eye on the waiting room.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure I let folks in. So I'm so excited to be here with Toot today. I've thought about doing
More
this.
than usually just being with me?
Yes.
Excellent.
I've thought about doing this for a while, and for the Love of Plant month seemed like a perfect time since trees are plants.
Trees are plants.
Right? So it was a good excuse to invite her on.
Big plants.
Yes. And she is going to do a demo on wood and things. But today we're really here to talk about your connection with fiber and how you got started with woodworking and all of those kinds of things.
Okay.
So let's start and do that. Talk to us a little bit about how you got interested in woodworking and how that happened.
So when I was it would have been kindergarten or first grade, my dad and his, trying to remember, 7 brothers, built the house that I grew up in. And so we'd go out there every weekend and work on the house until it took 4 years, till I was in 4th grade. And, several of my uncles were carpenters. We had one who was a plasterer. I don't know if anybody was a bricklayer because the house was brick, but I don't remember anybody being a bricklayer, but maybe they're,
Thank you.
Just jack of all trades. Anyway, so there was a lot of wood and a lot of nails. And my brothers and I built a boat.
Like out of the stuff.
And we took it out to one of the cow reservoirs and put it on the water, and it immediately sunk. And I just couldn't understand, wood floats. How does this sink? And
I never heard that story.
oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of where it got started. And then in 8th grade, and I'm not sure why I think it was that's why it was. Yeah. So in middle school, I went to it was an old building where Peter Dalvig chased me around the desks and tried to kiss me, but I gave him a black eye for that. Not for that, but that was for something else. But anyway. But then
probably a judge now or something.
I don't know. He was kind of a rough character.
Anyhow,
I'm not sure where he is now. But anyway, Peter Dalvig. So after that, they had built a new middle school that had a shop when I was in 8th grade. And so in 8th grade, I took shop. I was, I think, one of 2 girls who took shop, and that was it. I was hooked. My dad bought my first table saw when I was in 8th grade. Or no, he bought me my first lathe in 8th grade. And then he bought me a table saw in 9th grade. And the table saw, we got it out of the paper. And the thing was, it was an old Sears Craftsman. And if you were cutting anything real thick, you'd run it through. And when you got to the end, something about the tension would let loose and the motor would fly up and then hang down. It's great. And then he really wanted a shopsmith, so he bought me a shopsmith.
Oh, your dad wanted it, so he had it for you.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that until my mom told me that.
Huh.
So yeah,
because he did a little woodworking later on.
He did later on. Yeah, not really too much when I was home. I mean, he was always building something, chicken coops and stuff. In fact, when he first started building furniture, he said, "Boy, you can be off, an inch or 2 on a chicken coop, but if you're off an 1/8 of an inch on furniture, you can really see it." Huh? Yeah, you gotta be a little more accurate, Dad. So that's kind of how I got started. And so then I went to CSU. So my middle school shop teacher was pretty great. My high school shop teacher sucked. He did not want me to be there. And even though I wasn't in a great woodworker at the time, but I was definitely learning, and I had a shop at home. And so I kind of knew what I was doing. And I just remember him kicking apart my my project because I didn't glue it together right. And he wasn't very gentle about it. You know, he didn't say, hey, you know, let's try this a different way and we're going to have to take it apart. But it did teach me when I became a shop teacher, you know, to be very gentle with kids if we needed to take something apart and put it back together correctly. So, you know, I guess it was good in that. But anyway, he kind of ruined me on the idea of shop teacher. So in middle school, I was going to be a shop teacher. In high school, I thought it sucked. He sucked. Everything about it sucked. I still kept taking his classes. And then I got to CSU. I had declared my major as psychology. And my freshman year, spring semester, I couldn't get any classes that I wanted. There was a woodworking class. And I signed up for it. And bless Lee Carter's heart, I made a relatively ugly, not that it wasn't core craftsmanship ugly, it was just design ugly. It was a little, I wanted to make cabriole legs and, you know, do fancy joints and stuff. And so, but it was just kind of out of proportion with cabriole legs. Those are those French. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, but Lee Carter said,
This is your teacher?
Yeah, he was my professor. He's like, you're pretty good at this. You should think about changing your major. And so I did.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. There you go. Does that kind of answer your question?
That's great. Yeah. So were there other women in your classes?
In college?
Yeah.
Yes. The one I remember had very long fingernails and she was afraid to pound sand in the foundry class.
Oh.
So, I mean, I don't know if she ever graduated. There were a handful, not many.
A handful that were headed toward teaching or just that were taking the classes along with you?
I think there were a couple who were headed toward teaching.
Okay.
And certainly there were women after me. A lot of the women that I hung out with at my professional organization here in the state, they went through under Lee Carter and
okay.
And yeah, so, but still, there were probably in that group, maybe 4 or 5 women.
Okay.
So not very many.
And there aren't very many programs anymore, right? That's my job. You just keep talking.
There are, well, you're bad at your job.
I'm watching you.
There aren't. They've started a program. I mean, you just can't find a shop teacher. So not one who's trained.
Right.
So anyway, they've started one back up in Wyoming and there's one in Kansas, or at least there was.
So was it hard to be a woman and be a shop teacher? Were there things?
It was horrible. When I was looking for a job in the late 80s, early 90s, I'd find a job. I would call up. I would call up and they'd say one of two things. It's too expensive. We cancel the program. Or we're looking for a shop teacher / wrestling or football coach. Because they assumed they were going to get a man.
Right.
So, yeah, it was hard.
So you subbed for a while.
I subbed for 2 years.
And then was the first job in Arizona?
Yeah, I got a job in Arizona. And I hated Arizona. And you were in Minnesota.
Right.
So I moved to Minnesota. And then I found this job.
Yeah. And you were here for...
I taught in Windsor for 31 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And really built the program.
Well, I changed it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy who had it before me, he did different stuff. So
right.
I just changed it.
So what is it about woodworking? What makes that a passion for you? Do you know?
Well, it's making stuff, being creative. It's all the cool tools you get to have. And I love wood. I love how it smells. I love the feel of it. I love the variety of it. There's so many different woods.
Makes me think, like, I would say the same thing about fiber, you
Right,
know?
right,
There
exactly.
is such a
Yeah.
variety of,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
things to play with in that one category. So so we're here talking to fiber enthusiasts.
Mhm.
What brought you to be a part of that?
You did.
Okay, but more specifically.
You said I need a little loom.
Yeah, okay. Right.
So for your fiber camp, so we made a little loom. And I looked at what was out there and I tried to improve on it.
Right. Several renditions. I think we started with a frame loom.
Oh, I
And
don't remember that.
yeah, the very first, and I just kept saying, this isn't
what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And initially the terms were kind of foreign. You know, what is dent? What
Right.
is, you know?
Right.
And she would come in
I
and
know
say,
the difference between warp and weft.
well, I was gonna say, I remember you running in and saying, oh, that's the warp.
Exactly.
So is there, you like to solve problems
Yeah.
and build things to solve problems.
Yes.
Has this been a kind of an adventure in that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is one of the aspects of woodworking that's, I think, challenging. You know, you have to figure out how to do it, what's the best way to do it, how to safely do it.
Right.
So there's all those aspects as well.
Right.
And so there's a lot of problem solving involved.
Right. I think I love it when we do those things just as an aside, you know, that we kind of collaborate and do those things together.
Yeah.
So of the fiber tools that you make, is there one that you like to make more than the others? I know the one you don't like to.
I was gonna say there's one I don't like to make. You know, I've really been enjoying the forks. And I think that's, I don't know, partly because I'm using all kinds of different woods, which is fun for me. What do they need?
I think she's asking us to change the view.
Oh, I thought they had to do that.
I don't know how to spotlight it.
I don't either. You want me to
Anyway,
Google it?
no, just keep going.
Well, what else you want to know?
Well,
You want to know about when I used to go to the lumberyard with my brother?
oh yeah, do tell that story. That's nice.
So my younger brother, he's 3 years younger than me. And I don't know why we would, I mean, probably because I could drive and he couldn't yet. But we'd go to the lumberyard and I can remember going in and them saying, you know, they'd approach Chris and say, what can we help you with? And he'd, you know, I love my brother. Well, you can't really help me, but you can help my sister. So, you know, there was a lot of sexism.
Right.
You know, everything, you know, if I built something really cool, people would ask me if I did it from a kit. And for a long time, because I guess you could buy kits for these things. I had no idea. I just got wood and made it, but.
And you don't think they would have asked that of a man?
No.
Because he would have had designed it himself.
Right.
Okay.
And then you know, when I first started teaching, kids would come in, they say, we have a girl for a shop teacher. And I wonder if they say, we have a guy for a shop teacher
now after 30 years.
So. We've talked about that, a cinch loom.
Yep. Yeah, because we have a horsewoman in our family.
We do. My favorite woodworking tool. Well, the one that I couldn't live without is the table saw, probably. It's such a versatile tool. You can do so much on it, but I still love turning on the lathe. That's probably one of my favorite things. And I'm not great at it, you know, compared to some of these, you know, turning masters, but it is a lot of fun.
Right. And you have a special table saw.
I do.
Tell us about that, because I think it's kind of cool.
I have a saw stop. So, boy, it's been a lot of years. This guy who decided to design it to make it safer, he actually tried to sell the technology to the saw companies and nobody wanted to buy it. So he went ahead and started manufacturing these saws on his own. And it's got basically a conductive, it's got a computer in it. So when you touch the blade, you draw some of that, voltage away from you. It's not it's a capacitance thing. And so when you draw that away, it senses that and it runs an aluminum pawl into the brake and drops it below the table in about 5 milliseconds. In fact,
So when you say when you touch it, you're talking about when it touched soft.
anything that's conductive.
Okay.
So if you, for instance, run your miter gauge into it, that's aluminum, it'll
As
trip it.
evidenced by, yeah, okay.
That was in fact, I was at Woodcraft today and a guy came in and he was running a dado head on his saw stop and it saved him. He was there to buy a new brake and a new blade. So.
Yeah, so when they demo it, they'll demo it like on a hot dog and there's just this tiny little cut on the hot dog. It'll save your finger or your hand or,
Yeah. Somebody wants to know what my favorite wood is and I gotta
I
say,
asked her that earlier.
I gotta say, that's like asking what your favorite child is. I have to say that one of my favorite combinations is, I love this cherry walnut maple combination. But then how can you not love zebra wood, whinge, and maple?
These are gonna be little cheese boards, right?
Yeah, cheese cutters. And then this one I found, this was what I got look at that. It's like almost a rainbow. I bought that today. That's Pau Rosa or African rosewood. So I love
Are you a wood sniffer?
it. Not all wood smells good. Cherry, that is one of the things I love about cherry, is it smells kind of, I don't know, maybe sweet when you cut it. Oak smells like diapers.
Nice.
Like I'd cut it into school and the kids would be like, what is that poopy smell? I'm like, it's the oak. I know this is bound to be probably, I'm thinking forks, weaving forks. It is gorgeous.
She sent me a text and said, can this follow me home?
Well, and you were about as good at enabling me with that as I am with you and wheels.
Yeah, I said, buy the wood.
I know you did.
Life's too short, buy the wood.
Buy the wood.
So did you think when we moved here and got animals that would be complementary to things that you did?
No, I figured it was just my fence fixing skills that would be handy, and shed building, which don't have to be very accurate, by the way.
Right.
Parker and I built a chicken coop together, though.
Right. Then he tried to knock it down with
With the tractor, but
So we've had lots of animals. You are impartial to the fiber animals?
Well, my favorite animal ever was Piper.
Piper was a milk goat, kind of a scratch and dent milk goat.
She was homely. Oh my gosh, she was not
she was more than one breed.
She was part Nubian, which have the big floppy ears, and then Alpine. So her big floppy ears stuck straight out, which is why we called her Piper, because she looked to me like my grandpa's Piper Cub airplane. But she was a neat goat, gave tons of milk.
Yeah.
For a scratch and dent.
Tons of milk.
So yeah. How do you know if more people are getting in? Want in?
It'll come up here and it'll come up over there. Yeah.
I'm just making sure you're doing your job.
I knew this was going to be interesting in so many different kinds of ways. Something else, what else I ask folks. So talk a little bit about some of the projects that you've done. You've done some really cool things for family and.
Well, let's see. I made our bedroom set.
All the furniture upstairs.
Most of the furniture upstairs, the dining room set, stuff in the living room, except the coffee table. That's Dad's. And you can tell because it's not sanded as well as I'd sand it. I'm just saying.
Right?
He was
Smooth.
he was not a true attention to detail kind of guy.
But he loved to say that he learned everything.
Yeah, if
From you.
people would think that he was the reason, you know, oh, you must have taught Toot how to do that. And he'd be like, no, she taught me. And you know, that was kind of a cool
That was
bonding
kinda
thing with my dad. He'd call and ask, how do you do this? And I could tell him. And because yeah, he didn't really get into it until he retired.
Yeah.
So, and then somebody, what's that? Oh, I don't know what that is. So probably, gosh, one of the most challenging things I've ever made was that 16-foot cedar strip canoe.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to build a strong back first. So you have to build the form for it. And then you take the strips and staple them to the forms, glue it, staple the next one, glue it, staple the next one. I don't know, there was probably a gazillion staples in it that you have to pop out when you're done. And then you fiberglass the outside, fiberglass the inside, made the seats, caned the seats, put the gunnels on, made the oars. It was a lot of fun. And I think it probably took me, about 4 months to make it. I mean, I didn't work on it all the time, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I remember the inaugural.
Yeah, it didn't sink.
It did not.
Unlike the first boat.
You learned some things between the first boat and that one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, it was sad because there was a seat on it with a canopy and everything. I mean, my brothers and I did it up good on that first one. There's a picture of it somewhere.
Before you sunk
Before
it.
we sunk it, yeah. Yeah, it was sitting in the driveway somewhere before we took it out. And
So Catherine, I think it's Catherine, yeah, who says it looked like the sheep sure loved you. They were sure loving you that day.
they were.
In
I probably had treats.
I was sitting on the ground with the sheep and you came and sat down and it was so cute. They were snuffling up your hair.
Yeah.
They're sweet. Sometimes I miss that part about sheep.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So what else?
Hmm.
Think of what? Oh, so do you have things that are coming up, new things that are coming up?
Well, I have a really pretty piece of Chechen,
Okay.
and I want to take the piece and cut it like this. So it's called resawing it, which I need a new saw for, by the way.
Noted.
And you cut it like this, and then you open it up. It's called book matching. And it's got this great grain. It's kind of like this, but a little more, the contrast is higher.
Okay. So more dynamic.
Yeah, and so I want to do it. It's Chechen, and I want to do that, and then maybe use either curly maple or bird's eye maple for the case of it. I've got a whole thing going.
So Chechen is, do we have? It's in the bag.
We don't have any Chechen.
I think it's in that bag there. Or no, that's not
No, that's
Chechen, that's Murado.
No.
Yeah. So it's a lighter wood.
Well, it depends.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, wood is a natural substance. So I actually found, the Pow Rosa that I showed these guys earlier, there was a piece of bloodwood that almost looked like it today. And bloodwood is typically more red.
Okay.
So,
Well, and we had that tulip wood too, that
mhm,
was maybe tulip wood and maybe
canary wood.
oh yeah.
It's hard to say. Oh no, Parker's a metal guy. Although he has done some woodworking.
And it thinks he learns by osmosis.
You know, seriously, you try and teach these kids. For years, I've maintained our cars. I do all the oil changes. I do as much as I can, right? Changed out an entire air conditioning system in it, Honda. And he comes home from college with a girl to help her change her oil. And he shows up with the girl, the filter, and one quart of oil. It's like,
Did Did you not really pay attention?
Lord. So who ended up changing the oil? Although he's learned since then. And he's probably
Because
surpassed.
he does a lot of
me.
mechanics.
He's probably surpassed me in the mechanic area, but
I feel like
anyway.
there was a lot of that, bringing girls home with their cars who needed fixed.
Well,
The girls had the car.
there was that guy too. Came with Alec. We had to do his brakes. It was just a good friend. Oh, there's people who want in.
Oh dear.
Come on.
So we say
up.
that we are a good team because I'm a menace with any kind of any tool or engine
I don't
or
know. Yeah, that Carter thing scares me.
yeah, but I'm not maintaining the machine, the machine part of that.
You paint on those things and all those little tines.
Right.
Bite.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're a menace, and I'm
Not. So it's a good deal. You built stuff.
Yeah.
I had a loom. It needed a stand, and the stand just appeared one day.
Yeah, I need to get on that stand for the flip.
I need a stand for the flip.
I
There
know.
just aren't enough hours in the day to do those kinds of things.
Well, there would be if somebody didn't need all those looms
Right.
and forks and
Problems you want.
I know it's not bad.
And not forks, combs.
Yeah. we need to work
Combs
on
are coming.
Shh, don't say that out loud. What
Well,
if I run into a problem again?
well, maybe not for this month's sale. If you
Yeah,
have,
because this is a short month.
yeah, I'll show the forks because they're really very pretty. I love them because they're
Ergonomic.
they're just very ergonomic. Yep. And I think this is, this is not a selling moment, but there's just something about, Toot just really does solve a problem. I needed a pair of combs. I was doing lots of processing of raw, and the combs that I had just made my arms hurt. And so, there's something about this that's just, it turns in my hand, and you solve that problem for me. They're just very comfortable.
Well, and this is, so you asked about my favorite wood, and I guess if I
Oh.
could only pick one wood to work with forever and ever, it'd probably be cherry. And I love it because this is new cherry and this is older cherry. And it just gets darker and redder and more beautiful with age.
Yeah,
Kind of like me.
yeah.
Except I get lighter.
Right. It's like a fine wine.
Yeah, I'm like a fine wine, exactly.
Yeah, we have a mirror in our bedroom that's like twice
Yeah,
as dark. I mean,
it's dark, so deep. That wood, when I was in high school, my dad had a friend, Chuck Hargis, who lived in Tennessee. And he would come out, I think about once a year in the big van. He had a 15-passenger van. He'd drag, I think it was Linda was his wife. I can't remember his kids' names. I don't know why, because we nearly died on that hill he lived on.
they could be on witness protection.
They
Maybe we'll just,
Yeah, I'll have to tell you that story though. And so, God, how you survive your childhood sometimes, I don't know. But he'd bring this wood from Tennessee. And so that cherry came from him in Tennessee. So that's, I mean, that was high school. So that thing's what, 40, at least 40 years old.
Are there woods
45.
that you have built things with that you can't get anymore? I mean, I know that there are some environmental
Well,
things, and you're going to talk about that in your demo.
right. Not that I can think of.
Okay.
There are woods that are harder to get than they used to be. And I mean, if you're willing to pay for it, you can about get it.
Sure.
So one of the things I like is the other thing I like is those burls from Australia, the red mallee burls.
Oh,
God, they're gorgeous.
yeah. That's another thing that I love about watching you work. There are those pieces of wood that have, you know, the burl or the fork in the wood or something like that,
Yeah.
that I think someone else would see as, you know, something that you would avoid.
Right, so that brings up a good story. So I decided to make a dulcimer. And so I wanted to make this dulcimer, but I wanted to use natural knot holes for the sound holes instead of cutting the knot holes. So I go to the lumberyard, and the guys at that point knew me pretty well because I, you know, shopped there a lot. This was in high school or maybe early college. Anyway, I'm like, okay, we've got to find this knot hole. It has to be, you know, so far from the edge because, you know, and so, because what I wanted to do was again, split the wood and book match it so the knot holes
Right.
were even. And the guy is digging through, and he's like, man, I could find 1,000 knot holes when somebody doesn't want one.
But you were looking for
But I
one.
was looking for the perfect knot
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah,
We did find one.
I love that though, you know, because it's so, you know, like you didn't know fiber when you started. I didn't know wood when we started, and I have such an appreciation for those natural design elements that you just really make shine, you know,
Yeah.
in your art. So talk to us a little bit about art, because some of the things that you're doing, like the looms, are really more production work, which I know is not your first choice, but we've talked about how different woods make that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I started
Interesting.
doing the exotics with the looms, because it's something different. It makes it more exciting for me. I've never liked to make something more than once.
Right.
But by having different woods, it kind of lets me be more creative with that.
Right. So you're retired from teaching now, we'll
Yes,
say.
semi-retired, yes.
Semi-retired. So what is in your mind's eye for, you know, art or projects that are not fiber related right now?
Well, I have a couple of bowls I need to finish. So somebody gave me some firewood. And
Seriously.
yeah. And it was really too pretty to be burned. And so I started these bowls. They were green at the time, so it wouldn't really been good firewood. So when it's green, basically you take it and you rough it out and leave the walls of it pretty thick. So it's a rough bowl right now. And you put it in a plastic bag with all the shavings and you seal it up.
Does the shaving,
And then you keep weighing it until it stops losing weight, and then you know it's dry.
why do you put the shavings in there?
I don't
Does
know.
it
Somebody told
absorb
me to.
the moisture?
I think it just helps stabilize it, because if it doesn't have something else in there, you've got that thin wall, and it, you know,
Oh,
wood that dries cracks unless it's dried properly.
okay.
So it cracks or it warps or whatever.
So do you have to store it someplace special, or you just,
No, I just
Leave
kept
it
it
out
in
in
the
the shop
bag.
and-
Well,
okay.
it wasn't outside
okay,
because I don't want it to freeze.
okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So that I really want to make a jewelry box with that Chechen.
Okay.
I don't know. I have some ideas for some wild cutting boards.
Okay.
So, you know, like that.
Okay. All right. We're a little early here, but I'm going to open up to questions because I would love to have you guys ask Toot anything. Oh, Wendy, that's wonderful. I just love that cherry. I love the way it ages. It's just really beautiful. So we'll open it up. You guys can unmute and chat and
Ask me a question.
and ask Toot a question. Ask your fiber questions. That's fun.
It's not
But
soft.
she's a woodworker, so let's ask her a woodworker
Okay.
question.
Okay.
So, Toot, I totally get it. My dad was a finished carpenter, and I loved working in the wood shop and when he was building stuff. And like you, in high school, it was like girls are not allowed in wood shop.
Yeah.
There's home ec. You're not allowed. I couldn't take wood shop when I was in high school. So thank you for persevering and doing it. So that is awesome. So you mentioned bowls and cutting boards and things like that. So other than fiber tools, which I think is awesome, and those cones that you made were just phenomenal. So your other projects, the bowls and cutting boards and things that are not fiber related, do you also have do you sell those?
Yes,
Or is that yes. Okay. So is that on the Timber and Twine website? I mean, how do you do that?
it will be on in fact, some of these are going to go up on the Timber and Twine website that I'm working on right now, the cheese slicers. So, yeah. And you know what? I have to credit my dad because he could have discouraged that, you know, as being a girl in a non-traditional, but he encouraged it all the way, you know. I was really lucky because back in those days, you know.
He's probably thrilled because neither of your brothers were all that interested, right?
Yeah, not really. Damien took a wood shop class, but he wasn't great at it.
Okay.
But he only took one, so you know, how do you
Right.
build skills in one class? So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Toot also does, she just did a little remodel-ish finishing part for a friend
Yeah.
who bought a new house, and
I'll do anything for a cheeseburger.
nice. Murphy, we've got a Murphy bed that's in the works.
Oh my God, I gotta finish that. It's in my way.
There's always something.
Yeah.
Jean, you popped on. Did you have a question?
I do. Hi, because I was in a male dominated field. I went to school for engineering,
Oh yeah.
and you know, what can we do and what do you do even now to encourage young girls to not listen to that?
Well, you know, I think that was one of the great advantages to my being the woodshop teacher, is because they could see a female in a non-traditional role. And somebody just asked if I had any former students who have gone on to be woodworkers. And yeah,
Great.
I have a former student, he's male, but he's actually the woodshop teacher at our sister school in Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the guy who took my place is a former student. He's not a woodworker, but
That's another story.
he's working on it. But yeah, I got like one time I was, you know, I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I had a girl who ended up in my shop class because they didn't really get to choose in certain grade levels. And I mean, when she got there, she was not having it. She was like, this is not, you know, it's not what I want to be doing. And by the end of the class, she was like, what are we making next?
Isn't that exciting?
It was, yeah. That's, you know,
Luckily, in my high school, everyone took shop and home ec. No, was that middle school? I don't remember, middle school or high school. All boys and girls took shop and all took home
yeah.
ec.
Well, and
That was progressive. Wow.
in my middle school, they, you know, they didn't discriminate by gender, but a lot of girls would go to choir and band. And so I wouldn't see them because it would take them out of that rotation.
Oh, right. We had to do it.
Yeah. And I wish that we could have made them do it, but nobody listens
Yeah.
to me. I'm king, things will be different.
Well, and I love that, you know, kids that did not necessarily, that struggled in the traditional academic environment really thrived in your class because they weren't expected to sit still.
Mhm.
They weren't expected to, I don't know, produce in the same kind of way.
Yeah, but when you tell them they have to do math, boy, is that a shocker to them.
Right?
I'm like, shop's all math all the time, kids.
So I think
Cool.
that's an excellent question, Jean. You know, I think simply being visible,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, I think that's a good start.
Well, and I
Do you
follow-
have any clubs? Like, do you run any clubs woodworking for?
you know,
Yeah.
I am toying with the idea of doing some woodworking classes here in my shop once it's done.
Cool.
And I think that would be a lot of fun. I would love to do, you know, woodworking for women. where they wouldn't necessarily have to feel like I was mansplaining stuff or talking down to them or whatever. And so I think that would be a fun thing to do. I have to look at, liability and whatnot for that, because we would be using dangerous things.
Right,
And I don't want to lose the farm.
right. But it's just a whole different energy, I think,
Right.
women are, my impression is that women would be more likely to be afraid, and men are more likely to let power through even if they don't know. I mean, that's a real gender stereotype,
But I think in
But you're-
general, you're not wrong.
but you're dealing with different
I've-
things and teaching women, and it's
I've
nice for them
taught-
to have an environment where they can.
I've taught adult women and they definitely, and this has been a while ago, but they were definitely much more fearful. Men, they think they can do it because they have a Y chromosomes or whatever.
Or their fathers let them do it when they were young, but the
Well,
women never got to do it when they were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
My dad gave my youngest sister a toolbox. So she had a toolbox from like age 5. So thank you.
You bet.
Dude, I have a question. I live in Arizona, Nogales, Arizona, and I was wondering, one of the women in my knitting group, her husband makes bowls, beautiful bowls out of the mesquite wood.
Oh, mesquite.
And
That's
it's got
like a rock.
this is one I've got from her, but
Yeah.
it's got the burls and all the beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So I bought this one and I use it for my yarn.
Yeah.
But I wondered if you had ever used mesquite.
I haven't used mesquite. It doesn't really grow around here, and you can't buy it. It's not something that they make finished lumber out of that I've ever
Mhm.
seen.
Did-
So
did you say it's hard?
I think it is pretty hard. My
Okay.
understanding is it's pretty
Oh
hard.
yeah,
The only
there's
mistake
there
ahead.
is a woodworking place here that sells mesquite, and they make benches and a lot of furniture is made out of mesquite here in in-
Well,
so.
it's in your backyard, that's
Mm.
a little
Yeah.
easier. So hang on a second.
She's getting something.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
So, speaking of in your backyard, so I go and I buy this stuff. This is oh God, what is this called?
Banksia.
Yeah, Banksia pod. Thank you. So this is a Banksia pod.
Oh, look at that.
Basically what it is, it's like, so I turn this on the lathe and it's like turning a cat because the outside is all bumpy and lumpy. And then you hit this layer that's like velvet. It's
Yeah.
free. And I mean, this stuff is flying everywhere. It's just, I mean, really. And then you get to this part that has all these holes. So this is from a flowering shrub. It's sort of like a pine cone. But apparently this stuff just lays around in Australia and New Zealand. And, we're paying, $12 for a little piece of it here. And there you go.
So what would be local here?
Well, there's that, Baldwin Hardwoods does all kinds of local stuff.
Okay.
I mean, local here is pine, everything else, well, probably cottonwood.
Which is soft, right?
Yeah.
Kind of soft.
Pine is soft. So the difference between a hardwood and softwood is actually not determined by whether it's hard or soft. It's a stupid system. So if it is a leaf bearing tree, it's a hardwood. If it's a needle bearing tree, it's a softwood.
So deciduous and.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
So basswood or balsa wood is a hardwood. And if you've ever worked with balsa wood, you can cut it with your fingernail.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
like the little airplanes and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh,
So it's a hardwood because it has leaves, but anyway.
Huh.
It's not very hard.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I love this. I think this is just, it's so interesting.
Yeah, if you have
You
that
know?
fear of holes, it's not good for you.
Oh, what is that Triskaideka?
I don't know what it is, some kind of fear of holes.
Wouldn't put water in it for a flower vase.
Yeah, you can't, it's for dried flowers. That's all it is. I made some really cool Christmas ornaments out of it one year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, woodworkers will throw anything. There's a thing called a tanga nut. And it's actually, so it's just a tiny nut, but it looks like ivory. They call it vegetable ivory. And people will use that as embellishments on turnings and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Any other burning questions out there?
Nope. I covered it all.
Anything else you want to share with us?
I
Well,
have one question.
okay.
Teddy, are you going to let Toot interview you?
That would be a disaster. Somebody else needs to
I
interview
could,
her.
somebody could do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to start.
In interviewing me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's not do that now.
So yeah, I think the plan is once I get caught up, if I ever get caught up, to put these things, these extra things on the Timber and Twine website.
Right. Yeah. Oh, so let's ask that since and we'll wait and see if anybody else has questions. So tell us where we can find you. Like
I don't have a very high presence on social media.
but there are some.
I have an Instagram called Toot Woodworks. And you can find me there, and I post on it about once a year. So it takes a lot of your time.
But there's a great video if you I was thinking about building things. So 1 year Toot went for Halloween as a centaur, and she built this whole centaur, and the legs go clippity clop in the back.
I love Halloween.
And there is a video of her on that.
Yeah.
In a centaur costume.
Yeah.
And the Woody costume, which had a pull string and said, "There's a snake in my boots."
Yeah, I wired that up. So yeah, I used to really get into Halloween when I was teaching school because it was so darn much fun.
Well, and you approach everything as building.
Well, everything is building.
I know, but
I'm gonna build you dinner.
I know. 1 year she needed a rain suit, so she built herself a rain suit with the sewing machine. So.
I betcha. It's like running a bandsaw, but except it puts things together instead of taking things apart.
Right. All right. So Toot Sweet Woodworks.
Yep.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
I post stuff for her on Timber and Twine.
Yep.
And we're there both on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
And you can reach her if you have a question through Instagram. I mean, through our Facebook or Toot Gradisar. If you want to message her if you have a question for something. I don't think of where else.
Like I said, I don't have a very big social media presence. I'm real bad at that.
So things that are coming up, you're doing.
This is the month for forks.
Forks. Yep. So February we'll be leaving forks.
Yep.
March. I don't know what March. We're either going to take March or May off.
I thought we were taking May off.
Okay. And then we will be, if you are local or local-ish, we will be at the Estes Park Wool Market.
Yeah.
I'm teaching little loom weaving 1 and 2, and the booth will be focused on fiber tools and looms and things like that.
I better get busy. I don't have time to talk to you people anymore.
Right. So that's where you'll be.
Yeah.
And you'll be in the booth chatting it up.
Yes.
With folks about.
Yep. I'll be showing them all the wood. I'll go, "Ooh, isn't this one pretty? Look at that zebra wood and whinge."
Whinge.
Yeah, whinge. It's that dark stripe right there is whinge, and that's just a splinter waiting to happen. But it's easy to see once you get it in your skin because it's dark. But it is splintery stuff.
Everyone is different, huh?
Oh, there's just, yeah, I mean, there's just so much fun stuff to do with wood.
All right. Is that all you got?
I can't think, I'll probably think of 100 things once we're off of here.
Okay.
Always.
Yeah. So,
Alright. Well, thank you guys so
Yeah,
much
thanks.
for joining us.
Thank you.
I will be back next week. We'll be back on regular schedule on Tuesday. And
we're gonna go to a cultural event tomorrow.
we're gonna go see Vitamin String Quartet tomorrow. So that was the little thing that we had to change. Oops.
Uh-oh,
I don't
somebody
know.
wanted, oh, what is that? Samsung SM. Don't let them in.
Well, I think somebody just hasn't changed their.
Oh, is that what it is?
So next week I'll be back. I think next week is Aletha Shannon of I think it's Willow Oak Farm and Fiber. And she does some plant fiber things. So this month I'm trying to have plant folks on.
Yeah,
So that'll be next week, next Tuesday at 7.
6.
Oh, the regular time is at 7.
Did we move this one up?
Yep,
Oh, we moved this one up.
we did.
Okay.
So we could feed in the light.
Oh, gotcha. All
All
right.
right, guys, have a wonderful evening. Thank
Yeah,
you so
thanks
much for
coming.
joining
Really
us.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.